Hey guys, how are you all doing? I hope everybody is safe and sound at home. Yeah. Well, today we're gonna start our next chapter, which is chapter third, Nazism and the rise of Hitler. Adolf Hitler. Yeah, very exciting. Okay, before starting, let me just give you a gist of what all the chapter is about. So this chapter revolves around the rise of Hitler and the politics of Nazism, the women and children in Nazi Germany, then schools and concentration camps. It further highlights the facts related to Nazism and how they denied the minorities the right to live, then anti-Jewish feelings, and the battle against democracy and socialism. So this is all we're gonna talk about in this chapter. So let's just begin. First of all, we have the genocidal war in Germany. Let me just just tell you some facts about this genocidal war. So the number of people killed, that included around 6 million Jews, then 2 million Gypsies, 1 million Polish civilians, and 70,000 Germans. Now, to understand this entire war in detail, there are some points which I'll be saying right now, which will serve as a background to understand the context of the chapter. So this actually is all about when the war ended and how Adolf Hitler's power it came to a halt. So in May 1945, Germany surrendered to the Allies. Allies is USA, Britain, Russia, Japan, Italy. So, anticipating what was coming, Hitler and his propaganda minister Goebbels, his entire family, they committed suicide in his Berlin bunker in April. At the end of the war, an international military tribunal was set up at Nuremberg. So, that was the military tribunal. And why was it done? So, to prosecute the Nazi war criminals for crimes against peace, for war crimes, for crimes against humanity. So this genocidal, it was waged on, like, Hitler was doing this. So the genocidal war was waged on those people who were considered physically and mentally disabled, besides the innumerable political opponents. So apparently, Nazis devised an unprecedented way of killing people, which is that they used to gas them up into killing centers, like for instance Auschwitz. So that was one of the killing centers. What is genocidal? So, genocidal is killing large groups of people on a large scale. So, huge destruction. Now, this Nuremberg tribunal, it sentenced only 11 leading Nazis to death. Many others, they were imprisoned for life. The retribution did come, yet the punishment of the Nazis was far short of what all, the brutality and the extent of their crimes was. So, the retribution was there, but the punishment which they were given was way more less than what they actually did. Now, the Allies, they didn't want to be, harsh on the defeated Germany as they had been after the First World War, which was 1914 to 1918. So everyone came to feel that, the rise of Nazi Germany could be partly traced back to the German experience at the end of the First World War. So this was all about the genocidal war in Germany. Next up, we have the birth of the Weimar Republic. So, to tell you the background, the birth of the Weimar Republic can be divided, like we will be seeing it under two sections. Firstly, the First World War, 1914 to 1918, and then secondly, after the war, that is after 1918. Okay, so I'll just write this down. Okay, so firstly, we have the First World War. So, Germany, it was a powerful empire in the early years of the 20th century. It fought the First World War alongside the Austrian Empire and against the Allies, that is, US. Okay, which Allies? So, England, France, and Russia. So, the Allies, they were strengthened by the US entry in 1970. So, when USA came, so the Allies were strengthened. So, they won, defeating Germany and the Central Powers in November 1918. Now, what happened after the war? So, the defeat of Imperial Germany in the First World War and the abdication of the empire, it gave an opportunity to parliamentary parties to recast the German polity. However, this republic was not well received by its own people largely because of the terms it was forced to accept after Germany's defeat in the First World War. So, National Assembly was set up. It met at Weimar and established a democratic constitution, which was with a federal structure. But then again, the republic was not received well by its own people, largely because of its terms that it had to accept. Okay. Next, we have the Treaty of Versailles. So, what was it all about? So, Germany lost its overseas colonies, 13% of its territories, its iron and coal to France, Poland, Denmark, and Lithuania. Germany was demilitarized and forced to pay a compensation of around 6 billion pounds. Apart from that, a war guilt clause held Germany responsible for the war and the damages that the allied countries had to suffer because of it. So, do remember, a war guilt clause was holding Germany responsible for it. Okay. So a war guilt clause. Then a compensation was paid, I told you. Apart from that, the Allied armies, they also occupied the resource-rich Rhineland for much of the 1920s. So Rhineland was occupied. Okay. Then many Germans, they held the new Weimar Republic responsible for not only the defeats in the war, but the disgrace at Versailles. Okay, so this also you need to remember. So this was all about the Treaty of Versailles. Next, we have now what was the impact of the First World War on Germany? So, the Weimar Republic paid for the sins of the old empire which was there. Those who supported the Weimar Republic, who were mainly the socialists, then the Catholics and Democrats, they were mockingly called the November criminals. Okay. Apart from that, there was aggressive war propaganda and national honor, which occupied center stage in the public sphere. While popular support, it grew for conservative dictatorships that had recently come into being. The First World War, it actually left a deep imprint on European society and the politics. Soldiers, they came to be placed above the civilians. The politicians and the publicists, they laid great stress for the need or for the need, for the need for for they laid a great stress on the need for the men to be aggressive, masculine, and strong. So the media glorified the trench life. However, the truth, on the other hand, it was that soldiers, they lived a miserable life in these trenches. They were trapped with rats feeding on corpses. They faced poisonous gas and enemy shelling, and they witnessed their ranks reduce rapidly. So the glorious side, it was shown that the soldiers were being put above civilians. They were leading a very nice life. The men should be aggressive and masculine, but the truth, however, it was the soldiers were leading a miserable life there. So this was the impact after the First World War on Germany. Next up, we have the rise of political radicals. So the birth of Weimar Republic, it actually coincided with the revolutionary uprising of the Spartatist League which was based on the pattern of Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. If you remember Vladimir Lenin. So this is how the birth of Weimar Republic coincided with the Russian Revolution. So the Spartatist League. Okay. So Soviets of workers and sailors, they were established in many cities. The political radicals, so who were the radicals like socialists, Democrats and Catholics, they were opposing this. So they were against all this. So then the Weimar Republic crushed this uprising with the help of a war veteran organization which was called Free Corps. Do remember? So when all this uprising was going on, Weimar Republic had to oppose this. So it had to crush this. And how did it do? With the help of a war veteran organization called Free Corps. Okay, so do remember Free Corps. So the anguished Spartacists, they later founded the Communist Party of Germany. Now the communist and socialist henceforth they became irreconcilable enemies and they could not make common grounds, a common cause against Hitler. So both revolutionaries and militant nationalists they craved for radical solutions. So basically, the rise of these radicals, the socialist Democrats and Catholics, they met in Weimar to give shape to the Democratic Republic. So do remember that this is one of the pictures where a rally was organized by the Spartatist League. So do remember this Spartatist League. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So next up, we have the economic crisis of 1923. What was the impact of this 1923 economic crisis? Now, with too much, printed money in circulation, the value of the German mark fell. In April, the US dollar it was equal to 24,000 marks. Then in August, it was around 46 lakh 21,000 marks, and at around 10 crore mark by December. And the figure had run into trillions. While the Germany mark it was falling down rapidly, like drastically. So as the value of the mark collapsed, prices of the goods soared higher. The economics, right? Then the image of Germans carrying the cartload. So there were actually images of Germans who were carrying cartloads of currency notes to buy a loaf of bread, which was widely publicized, evoking worldwide sympathy. So they were gaining sympathy because of it. So this crisis, it actually came to be known as hyperinflation. So what is hyperinflation? It's actually a situation when prices rise phenomenally higher. Eventually, the Americans, they had to intervene and they bailed Germany out of the crisis by introducing the Dawes Plan. So when they intervened, they introduced a Dawes Plan over here, okay, which reworked the terms of the reparation, to ease the financial burden on Germans. Apart from that, there was depletion of gold reserves from paying these reparations. Okay, so this was all the economic crisis of 1923 about, from which US got Germany back on the foot. Okay, next, very, very important, it is the Great Depression. Sorry. Yeah. So the Great Depression, if you remember, it's of 1930s, around 1930s. So what's the background about? In the years between 1924 and 1928, German investments and industrial recovery, they were totally dependent on short-term loans, largely from the US. Okay, so US was giving those loans. So this support was withdrawn when the Wall Street Exchange crashed in 1929. So in US, when the Wall Street Exchange crashed, which is the Great Depression, so these support was withdrawn. And fearing a fall in prices, people made frantic efforts to sell their shares. So this is the background. Now, what was the impact? So over the next 3 years, between 1929 and 1932, the national income of the US fell by half. So that was the Great Depression. Factories were shut down, exports fell, then farmers were badly hit, and speculators, they withdrew their money from the market. In fact, in Germany, if you see the industrial production, it fell to 40% of the 1929 level. The number of unemployed touched around 6 million. So this is one of the pictures where people are sleeping on the line because they are unemployed. So that's how unemployment hit. It was because of Great Depression, which was in around 1932. Okay. Now, what was the impact? Like I already told you, but still there are more impact to it. So, impact of Great Depression on Germany. US was there, but then what was the impact of Great Depression on Germany? So workers, they lost their jobs or they were paid, reduced wages on the streets of Germany. Like if you see the pictures, then there were men who were carrying placards with them around their neck saying, willing to do any work, like any work, I would do it. Unemployed youth, they played cards or simply sat at street or at corners or desperately queued up at the local employment exchange. Now, as jobs started disappearing, the youth took to criminal activities, and then there was total despair, which became commonplace. The economic crisis, it created deep anxieties and fear in people. The middle class, especially the salaried employees and the pensioners, they saw their savings, which was diminishing when the currency lost its value, the German currency, when it was losing its value. So these people saw that their savings was getting reduced. Then there were small businessmen, the self-employed and the retailers. They suffered as their businesses got ruined up. These sections of society were filled with the fear of proletarianization. Proletarianization is basically a social process where people move from being either an employee or unemployed or self-employed to being employed as a wage labor. So if initially they were employed, now because of this Great Depression and all, they were being employed as a wage labor. So the society was filled with the fear of proletarianization on so that was an anxiety of being reduced again. So that was an anxiety of being reduced to the ranks of the working class or worse, like the unemployed. So only organized workers could manage. So only those who were organized, so organized workers who were working in the organized sector, only they could manage to keep their heads above water. But unemployment weakened their bargaining power. Big businesses were in great crisis. The large mass of peasantry was affected by a sharp fall in agricultural prices, and the women who were unable to fill their children's stomach, they were filled with a sense of deep despair. So, as I said, there was fall in savings as the currency lost its value. Then there was fear of unemployment and proletarianization, sharp fall in agricultural prices, and then also there was, weakening of democratic parliamentary system also. So the democratic system, the Weimar Republic government, it was getting weakened. So this was all about, the Weimar Republic and its functioning. Now came the Hitler. So Hitler's rise to power. So actually here it's a video. So you guys can watch the video. I'm just gonna tell a gist like what all is there in the video. So it's just describing how Hitler rose to power. That's what we are gonna study in the next few slides too. So initially we have seen that the government of Weimar Republic was running the political system. However, after the Great Depression occurred in 1930s, like around 1930s in USA, so there was a fall, like major fall in employment opportunities, and that's when Hitler rose to power. So that's when Hitler actually came into power and authority. So this is all, the video is all about. And then he promised some things, and that's how people had faith in him. Okay. So next we have, so this is all, you can watch the videos. So I'm gonna start with the rise of Hitler. So, Hitler, he was actually born in 1889 in Austria. So it's not that important, but I think you can remember. So Hitler was born in 1889 in Austria. Okay, so he spent his youth in poverty. When the First World War broke out, he enrolled for the army. He acted as a messenger in the front, he became a corporal, and he earned medals for his bravery. Now, the German defeat, when that happened in the First World War, it horrified him, and the Versailles Treaty, it made him furious. So that's when he rose. So, in 1919, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, which he later renamed as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or very well like known as the Nazi Party. So do remember this Nazi Party. Okay. Now, how Hitler established his power, like on Germany. Okay, so it was during the Great Depression, that is 1932, that Nazism became a mass movement. That is, it was supported by the people, the Germans. In 1923, Hitler planned to seize control of Bavaria, march to Berlin, and capture power. So this is how he started. He failed initially, he was arrested, he tried for treason, then he was later released also. So the Nazis could not effectively mobilize. So what was happening? The Nazis could not effectively mobilize popular support till the early 1930s. Now, after 1929, banks collapsed because of the Great Depression again, and businesses were shut down. So workers were losing their jobs, and the middle classes, they were threatened with destitution. In such a situation, Nazi propaganda, it stirred hopes of a better future. So that's how when they rose to power. So this is how their future began. In 1928, the Nazi Party got no more than 2.6% votes in the Reichstag, which is the German parliament. It's called the Reichstag. Then by 1932, it actually had become the largest party with 37% of votes. So in the parliament. So initially it didn't have that many votes, but then by 1932 it could gain 37% votes in the German parliament. So Hitler actually promised to undo the injustice of the Versailles Treaty and create employment in Germany. So this is what all promises he made to the people. Now, Hitler, he was a powerful speaker, an orator. His passion and his words moved people. He promised to build a strong nation, undo the injustice which was caused to the people by the Versailles Treaty, and restore the dignity of the German people. Apart from that, he promised employment for those who were looking for work and a secure future for the youth. He promised to, weed out all the foreign influences and resist all foreign conspiracies against Germany. Hitler, he devised a new style of politics. He understood the significance of the rituals and spectacle in mass mobilization. So, he used to hold massive rallies and public meetings, the red banners with the swastik made on it, which was the Nazi salute, and the ritualized rounds of applause after the speeches were all part of this spectacle of power. So Nazi propaganda skillfully projected Hitler as a messiah, a savior, as someone who had arrived to deliver people from their distress and despair. So it is so this image, it is actually an image which was captured, which captured the imagination of the people whose sense of dignity and pride had been shattered down, and who were living in a time of acute economic and political crisis. So basically, people were seeing Hitler as a messiah, as their savior, someone who has come to help them out. Okay, next, the concentration camps. So the repression of the communists, so there was the communists, who were against Hitler. So the repression of the communists, it was severe. Out of the surviving around 6,000 and like around 7,000 arrest files of Dusseldorf, which was a small city of 500,000 population. So in from that, around 1,500 people were those who were communist alone. So they were, however, only among the 52 types of victims who were persecuted by the Nazis across the country. So basically, what exactly happened after Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, the fire decree of 28th February 1933 that had indefinitely suspended the civic rights which had been guaranteed by the Weimar Constitution. So he actually suspended those civic rights, and that's how people like the communists they ended up in the concentration camps. Next, we have the Enabling Act of 1933. It is significant, a little significant. So, this Enabling Act of 1933, it was passed on 3rd March 1933. It established dictatorship in Germany. It gave Hitler all the powers to sideline the parliament, which was Reichstag, and rule by decree, that is by, command. So, apart from that, what were the provisions of this Enabling Act? So, all the political parties and the trade unions, they were banned except for the Nazi party and its affiliates. So, do remember this that so these are the other provisions of the Enabling Act. Okay, so all the political parties were banned. So all the political parties except the Nazis, they were banned. Then the state established complete control over the economy, the media, army, and judiciary. So complete control. Next, there was special surveillance and security forces, which was created to control and order society in ways that the Nazis wanted. Apart from that, like apart from the already existing, regular police in green uniform and the SA or the storm troopers, so those were the regular police. These included the Gestapos, which was a secret state police, the SS, the protection squads, then the criminal police, and the security service, SD. So these were some of the police groups. Then it was the extra constitutional powers of these newly organized forces that gave the Nazi state its reputation as the most dreaded criminal state. And people could now be detained in Gestapo, then tortured the Gestapo torture chambers, rounded up and sent to concentration camps, deported at or deported at will or arrested without any legal procedures. So basically, Hitler had all the powers, so he could actually arrest anybody at any point of time. So there was no legal procedure which was being followed. The police forces acquired powers to rule with impunity. Okay. Next, we have the economic recovery. Yeah, so economy was already going down, right? So when Hitler came to power, he tried to recover it. How? So Hitler assigned the responsibility of economic recovery to a German economist, Hjalmar Schacht, who aimed at full production and full employment through a state-funded work creation program. So basically, this project, it produced the famous German superhighways and the people's car, the Volkswagen, which we know now. Then in foreign policy also, Hitler acquired quick successes. He pulled out of the League of Nations in 1933, which is the UN, League of Nations, now called as UN. Then he reoccupied the Rhineland, which was taken in 1920s. So he reoccupied that in 1936 and integrated Austria and Germany. He integrated Austria and Germany in 1938 under the slogan "One people, one empire, and one leader." So do remember that. What did he do? Austria German integration. So under what slogan? One people, one empire, and one leader. Okay, very, very important. Then he then went on to wrest German-speaking Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia and gobbled up the entire country in all of this, he had the unspoken support of the allies, which were the England, like mainly the England, then which had considered the Versailles verdict too harsh, like it actually considered it. So these quick successes at home and abroad, it seemed to reverse the destiny of the entire country. Next is the war and the expansion. This is what we studied. So in 1936, it was reoccupation of the Rhineland. Then 1938, integration of Austria and Germany. Then acquisition of German-speaking Sudetenland. Then September 1939, it was invasion of Poland. Then September 1940, it was a tripartite pact which was signed between Germany, Italy, and Japan. Very, very important. Okay, so this Hallmark, the German economist Hallmark Schacht, he actually advised Hitler against investing hugely in rearmament as the state still ran on deficit financing. So cautious people, however, had no place in Nazi Germany. So Schacht had to leave that then and there. In September 1939, as I said, Germany invaded Poland. So this started a war with France and England, both the allies. So when Germany invaded Poland. Then in September 1940, a tripartite act was signed between Germany, Italy, and Japan, strengthening Hitler's claim to international power. So puppet regimes, then supporters of Nazi Germany, they were installed in a large part of Europe. So Germany was hailing all over Europe. But sadly, it was sorry. But sadly, then there was defeat of Hitler. So, how the war actually ended. So, in June 1941, Germany attacked the Soviet Union and it was defeated by the Red Army at Stalingrad. So, after this, the Soviet Red Army hounded out the retreating German soldiers until they reached the heart of Berlin, establishing Soviet hegemony over the entire Eastern Europe for around half a century thereafter. So basically, Germany, like Hitler, attacked the Soviet Union and it was defeated. So the Red Army hounded out to the retreating German soldiers until they reached Berlin. Meanwhile, the USA had resisted involvement into the war, but was unwilling to, once again face all the economic crisis because the Great Depression was because of the First World War. So it was unwilling to once again face all the economic problems that it had caused in the First World War. But it could not stay out of the war for long. So Japan, on the other hand, expanding its power in the east. It had occupied French Indochina and it was planning attacks on US naval bases in the Pacific. So when Japan extended its support to Hitler, that is Germany, and bombed the US base at Pearl Harbor, very important, very famous, the US then entered the Second World War. So Second World War was from 1939 to 1945. Okay, so firstly, initially US was not planning to come, but then when Pearl Harbor was, that event occurred, it entered the Second World War. So the war, as I said, it ended in 1945 with Hitler's defeat and the US dropping. So two things happened. Hitler was defeated and the US dropping of the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was in Japan. So this is all about the Nazis and Hitler. Next up, we have the Nazi worldview.